The Wife is First. Volume 3, Gathering Storm. Chapter 100, Exclusive. When he heard Mu Hanzhong calling someone to take Qin Zhaoran to the guest room, Jing Xiao turned around and left. Although he was about to explode in anger, he forced himself to calm down. If he went in feeling like this, he might end up doing something he would bitterly regret. Isn't His Highness back yet? Seeing that the sun had set, Mu Hanzhong looked at the sumptuous meal in front of him and couldn't help but frown. The servants looked at each other. Naturally they didn't know where Prince Cheng had gone. Mu Hanzhong sighed and asked someone to put away the food that had gone cold. As soon as he stood up, he heard familiar footsteps outside the door. Before he even raised his head to look, he was engulfed within the arms of the person who had just came inside. "Where have you been, hey?" Suddenly he was picked up horizontally. Mu Hanzhong struggled a couple of times but he was unable to break himself free until he was already carried into the inner room. Jing Xiao threw the man in his arms onto the bed, took off his clothes and pounced on top of his wife. "Are you injured?" Mu Hanzhong saw the bruise on Jing Xiao's shoulder and hurriedly tried to get up to take a look but was pushed back by Jing Xiao. Jing Xiao held down the man who was trying to struggle, pulled open his robes and began to nibble and bite as he eagerly confirmed that this man belonged to him alone and no one could take him away. At first, Mu Hanzhong wanted to persuade him to eat first but gradually he became aroused by Jing Xiao's skillful ministrations. The hand that was pressing on Jing Xiao's chest to push him off, unconsciously slipped down and instead grasped the bed sheets under their bodies. Jing Xiao moved quickly and looked at the man under him whose eyes were blurred as his body was being tossed about and moaning quietly. However, Jing Xiao only felt emptiness in his heart. Everything had gone so smoothly since he came back from the past. He had always thought that Jun Qing had liked women before, or that he had never liked anyone else since he was so focused on studying. Unexpectedly, this Qin Zhaoran showed up halfway. They were childhood sweethearts who shared similar interests. They could talk about poetry and songs and criticize the current relevant issues. On the other hand, Jing Xiao was just the prince that the Marquis of Beiwei had forced Jun Qing to marry and Jun Qing had no choice but to accept it. Jing Xiao knew that was probably just overthinking things so he went to fight with Jiyu Huiqing in the afternoon to distract himself. However, the more that he tried not to think about it, the more persistent the thought became. Jun Qing may already have someone else he likes in his heart. All the resentments in the past life and the initial resistance in this life flashed before his eyes. They all seemed to be mocking him, telling him the everything was just his own wishful thinking. If Jun Qing was given a chance to choose, he might not even look at him at all. As his thoughts came to this point, Jing Xiao's movements became much fiercer. Mu Hanzhong soon felt the pain and couldn't help but frown. "Ease up, be gentle, ah." Jing Xiao ignored him and thrusted harder and harder. Oh. Mu Hanzhong raised his hand to push him but he couldn't muster the strength at all. Jing Xiao's movement became even rougher and rougher. His huge erection was as hard as iron and it stirred back and forth in Mu Hanzhong's body. The pleasure that Mu Hanzhong initially felt faded like the tide and what came after was pain which became more and more severe. "Ah, it hurts." Mu Hanzhong lifted his head which made him arched his fair neck beautifully. The neck was soon bitten by the man on top of him. He felt that he was being bitten by a wild beast. Fear and pain swept through his body. Stop. Stop, ah. The body of the person under him became more and more tense. It didn't take long for Jing Xiao to release his essence into his wife. He panted for a moment then he slowly pulled away. Only then did he saw how his wife was trembling under him and curling up from pain. He came to realize that he had just done something despicable. Jun Qing. Jing Xiao reached out hesitantly and touched his wife's arm but his hand was flung away. Seeing Jun Qing all curled up in pain, he immediately regretted it and slowly clenched his fists. This man was the purest and warmest existence in his life. If he lost him, his life would be meaningless. Jing Shao took a deep breath and spoke forcefully but with lack of confidence. I'm telling you that even if you have someone else in your heart, you will be my prince consort for the rest of your life and I will not let you go. Mu Hanjiang slowly turned around and gave him a strange look. What crazy thing are you talking about? What's going on with you and Qin Zhaoran? Jing Shao felt that he was a husband who had caught his wife cheating on him and should be the one to feel wronged. The more he spoke, the more confident he became. Why didn't you take the imperial examination when you were 18? The teacher said that the materials I studied were too varied compared with Qin Zhaoran who had only focused on studying the relevant texts, so he told me that I need to study for 3 more years. Mu Hanjiang was stunned for a while, and subconsciously answered in a low voice in response to Jing Shao's words. Then why did he say he was waiting for you to take the top scholar spot? Did you make any agreement with him before you married me, that whomever of you took the number 1 scholar spot would marry the other? Jing Shao completely threw caution to the winds and spoke everything that had been on his mind. Mu Hanjiang stared at him with wide eyes for a long time before he realized that this man was just jealous. Enduring the discomfort, he slowly sat up and sighed softly. Is there something I haven't told you? When Jing Shao heard this, all the hairs on his body stood up. Could it be that Jun Qing wanted to confess to him that Qin Zhaoran and Yung Qing had agreed to elope together? His heart immediately became filled with resentment. Even if these two were destined soulmates, he would definitely become the tyrant who would tear apart this pair of Mandarin ducks and firmly tied Jun Qing to himself. In his 2 lifetimes, there was only one person who completely belonged to him and no one was allowed to take him away. Mu Hanjiang slowly reached out and caressed the side of Jing Shao's handsome face. I love you. Humph, I'm telling you, even if you two knew each other first, I would still. Jing Shao suddenly paused mid-sentence and asked, Jun Qing, what did you say? Mu Hanjiang rolled his eyes at him and turned around to lie back down, but he was pulled into an embrace. Say it again. Jing Shao hugged the person in his arms excitedly, but before his wife could even speak, he continued, I knew it. This prince is both brilliant and powerful, how can you like somebody else? I love you too, Jun Qing. Even through 2 lifetimes, I only ever love you. Mu Hanjiang felt that the arms holding him were trembling slightly. Then he finally let out a sigh. From the beginning, he felt that the way Jing Shao expressed his love was like that of a child, and it seemed, the case was still the same. He loved so simply that there couldn't have been any falseness in it. He was like a small beast who had marked his claimed territory and no one was allowed to encroach it even for a little bit. Qin Zhaoran and I are simply old study companions. If he hadn't taken the top scholar position, I would have forgotten about him. After hearing this, Jing Shao felt even more happy. Suddenly he thought of something and quickly put the person in his arms back on the bed as he said, hurry and show me. Are you hurt? No, no. Mu Hanjiang blushed immediately, but he couldn't resist Jing Shao, who held him down and examined him thoroughly. Jing Shao looked at it carefully and slowly inserted his finger. Fortunately, there was no bleeding, but it was slightly red and swelling. Mu Hanjiang moaned and pushed against him. Jing Shao moved his fingers that were still buried within his wife. The soft and slippery place tempted him to go deeper. This man was his, completely his from the inside and out. Just the thought of that was enough to make his heart felt full. He leaned forward and kissed those soft lips that had teeth marks from being bitten, and since he was still slick from earlier, he thrust it into his wife's beautiful body again without resistance. The moon was high in the sky and everything in the Ruoshui Yuan was completely silent, though the sleepy birds on the eaves were occasionally startled into flight by the moans that were spilling out from within the house. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Bang. Jing Shao hugged the pillow and stared blankly at the closed door in front of him. He was actually kicked out of the room by his own prince consort. Wow! Xiao Huang, who was playing in the yard, heard the noise and immediately threw down the branch in his mouth and ran to the porch. What are you looking at, stupid tiger? Jing Shao glared at Xiao Huang, who ran to watch the fun. This prince will restore my position as the head of the household and make him realize what a sin it was to kick his husband out of the house. The fluffy tiger looked at him with contempt. Jing Shao snorted coldly, stepped forward, and knocked on the door. Jun Qing, I know I was wrong, let me in. The guards patrolling outside the yard were all transferred from Prince Cheng's personal army. When they heard the prince shouting at the top of his lungs, they all stumbled one after another. The leader scolded all of them, quickened his pace and led the team away from the door of the main courtyard. Creak. The door was opened halfway and Mu Hanjiang stood inside the opened gap and glared at him. Don't you feel embarrassed to howl in the middle of the night? Jing Shao immediately held the door of the room with one hand and said with an apologetic smile, Jun Qing, I was wrong. Don't kick me out. There is no bedroom for me in Ruoshui Yuan. Can you really take it if I sleep in the yard? While the two of them were talking, Xiao Huang had already squeezed in through the crack in the door. Mu Hanjiang rubbed his forehead and turned back inside the house. Jing Shao followed happily and locked the door behind him. The big tiger had already consciously jumped onto the bed and rolled on the soft quilt. Mu Hanjiang climbed inside the bed and placed the tiger in the middle, treating it as the realm between Chu River and Han. When Jing Shao saw what he did, his face immediately crumpled. Jun Qing. His wife ignored him and showed him his beautiful back as he went to sleep. The soft inner summer robe stuck to his skin and the red marks which decorated his shoulder blades faintly showed itself through the thin silk. Just looking at it made him itch and long to hold that warm and fragrant body within his arms, but when he stretched out his hand, he only touched the furry tiger. Xiao Huang had already grown big. When it lay down, it was almost as long as a person. Its wide body as it slept sprawled on its back separated Jing Shao from Mu Hanjiang in all directions. Jing Shao angrily grabbed one of its furry ears and squeezed his body into the beddings and tried to sleep. After a long time had passed, just when Jing Shao was about to fall asleep, he suddenly heard Mu Hanjiang asked, "What do you mean when you say that even through 2 lifetimes, you only ever love me?" Jing Shao opened his eyes with excitement and met a pair of piercing tiger eyes, glowing in the darkness. He stretched out his hand and flicked the tiger's head as he replied, "It is like this in this life, and it will be like this in the next life as well." Mu Hanjiang turned around and looked at him firmly. "What about the concubines you had before we got married?" Cough, cough, Jing Shao almost choked on his saliva. "I haven't even touched them." "What about Song Lingzin?" "Song Lingzin never moved my heart." "Really? Really?" Jing Shao said firmly. Mu Hanjiang looked at him and smiled lazily. He slowly leaned over and gave Jing Shao a gentle kiss. "Go to sleep." Jing Shao's eyes widened and he leaned forward to chase after him to get another kiss, but ended up receiving a mouthful of fur. Ayo! Xiao Huang rubbed itself clean on the pillow in disgust. The next day, Mu Hanjiang couldn't get up because he felt unwell due to what happened the night before. Jing Shao felt so distressed that he fed him breakfast with his own hands before he reluctantly went to the battlefield. Qin Zhaoran drank too much yesterday and spent the night in Ruoshui Yuan. When he heard that Mu Hanjiang was sick, he rushed over to see him but was stopped by the guard. His Highness ordered that the prince consort was resting and no one is allowed to disturb him. "Is it Brother Zhaoran?" Mu Hanjiang's voice came from inside the room. "Let him come in." Qin Zhaoran pushed the door open and saw Mu Hanjiang half lying on the bed with a book in his hand. "Why have you suddenly become sick?" "It's a common occurrence," Mu Hanjiang smiled. "Yesterday you drank too much and I didn't get the chance to ask, so today I'll speak bluntly. Are you aware that the local officials are taking commissions from overseas merchants?" Qin Zhaoran glanced at the purple teeth marks on his neck and felt a little bitter in his heart. "I am aware of it, but I promise that I have never taken a single coin." Mu Hanjiang nodded. "There will be some major movements that will occur in Zhangzhou in the coming days. Whatever you do, don't get involved." *******. The next month, Mu Hanjiang began to search for evidence that the local officials in Zhangzhou exploited the overseas merchants, while Jing Xiao slowly continued to fight the war with Ji Huaiqing, drawing the battle out. It wasn't until Mu Hanjiang got enough evidence and had the prefect of Jiangzhou's house surrounded with his soldiers that he understood what the malevolent glint in the eldest prince's gloomy eyes were about. "I am the eldest prince's maternal uncle, Lord Marquis. I guess you haven't realized which Buddha you were facing. These are just trivial matters. Shouldn't you be friendlier with members of the imperial family, little brother?" The prefect of Zhangzhou looked at him coldly. "Mu Hanjiang, this marquis brought only 100 men. With the strength of his own troops, he would definitely be able to take him down." Mu Hanjiang looked at the soldiers behind the prefect of Zhangzhou and couldn't help but frown. He didn't expect that this lowly prefect could have amassed such great power. The eldest prince must have known about this, so he didn't obstruct him from coming to Jiangnan. He probably planned to get him out of the way with this. Mu Hanjiang was calculating how long would the 100 men given to him by Jing Xiao could resist. The city of Zhangzhou was 50 li away from Pingjiang. Even if he made the left protectorate general go back to report the matter now, he was not sure whether Jing Xiao would make it in time. "I advise the Lord Marquis to put down your treasured weapon. Let's get into the house to discuss things. Otherwise, it won't be easy to explain to His Highness how your delicate soft skin got ruined." The prefect of Zhangzhou smiled mockingly and waved his hand to signal for his men to capture the Marquis of Wenyuan. Originally, the prefect of Zhangzhou wanted to tie the Marquis up and hide him away for some time. If there was no progress reported for a couple of months about the maritime business, their faction would urge the emperor to give up on this idea. Unexpectedly, someone leaked information about them, and the Marquis had even gotten hold of evidence against him which also implicated the eldest prince. At this point, they could only fight to the death. As long as the Marquis of Wenyuan dies. When did eldest brother have an uncle who was a prefect? How come this imperial prince didn't know about it? A clear voice came from behind the crowd. A black horse slowly walked out. Jing Xiao sneered and jumped off the horse, then he stood next to his prince consort. "Prince. Prince Cheng." When the prefect of Zhangzhou saw Jing Xiao, who was still wearing his armor, his heart suddenly went cold. "You. Aren't you on the battlefield?" "Humph." Jing Xiao put one arm around Mu Hanjiang's waist and raised his hand. "Not a single person is to be let go." After saying that, the soldiers behind him rushed forward while he, himself hugged Mu Hanjiang to mount onto his horse and moved further away to oversee the proceedings. Meanwhile, Ji Huaiqing, who had been left hanging to dry in the middle of the battle, was so angry that he threw down his long sword and broke it. A few days later, the report that the eldest prince colluded with the local officials in Jiangnan to accept bribes from overseas merchants so they could trade secretly within the empire was handed over to Emperor Hongzheng. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 3, Gathering Storm. Chapter 101, 12th Lunar Month. The matter with the prefect of Zhangzhou was resolved smoothly. After all, Mu Hanjiang was not one of those fools who still wanted to test the waters even though they already knew that there was danger. Adhering to the strategy of moving first if the enemy hadn't made a move yet, he was able to make a breakthrough in the investigation. Now the prefect of Zhangzhou had been apprehended and the maritime trading could officially begin. It was already evening by the time they find their way back and the sky was filled with sunset-colored clouds. Mu Hanjiang leaned in Jing Xiao's arms, looking at the colorful clouds on the horizon as if in a trance. "Xiao Xiao, I have something I want to discuss with you." "What is it?" Jing Xiao held the person in his arms. Taking into considerations the soldiers behind them, he did not urge Xiao He to gallop away but just let it walk leisurely. "I want to build the overseas trading government office in Luzhu." Mu Hanjiang pressed his lips and continued, "After all, it is close to the docks and will be more convenient for the merchants." Jing Xiao frowned when he heard this. Although Luzhu is not far from Pingjiang, If Mu Hanjiang go to work there every day, he would have to leave early and come back late. Emperor Hongzheng gave him a do-or-die decree before he set out. Pingjiang city must not be lost, so Ji Huiqing could not be allowed to attack Pingjiang no matter what. He could only fight farther and farther away from Luzhu. I will only take care of business for half a day every day, and rush back home at noon. Mu Hanjiang looked up at him. He understood that Jing Shao didn't want to be separated from him, so he tried his best to coax him in a pleasant way. Actually, there was nothing wrong with opening the government office in Pingjiang. He could have just let Qin Zhaoran deal with the small matters and urgent business that had to be dealt with in Luzhu. However, if he put into considerations that Jing Shao and Ji Huiqing were just pretending to be battling things out, should they build the government trading office in Ruoshui Yuan, there would be many people that would have to come and go in the overseas trading government office, and any one of them might be smart enough to notice any flaws. Jun Qing, Jing Shao hugged the person in his arms tightly. Are you still angry? Huh? Mu Hanjiang was stunned. What does this have to do with him being angry? I won't doubt that you and Qin Zhaoran have anything to do with each other, really, Jing Shao vowed. I just don't want you to work so hard every day. When Mu Hanjiang heard him mention Qin Zhaoran, he couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. He was trying to discuss serious business matter, but somehow Jing Shao got off the topic again, so he just closed his mouth and didn't pay any more attention to his husband. Jing Shao looked down at the person in his arms and noticed that he seemed to be tired as he closed his eyes. He dejectedly drew him closer within his arms so he could sleep more comfortably. When they returned to Ruoshui Yuan in the evening, Mu Hanjiang was really tired, so he went to rest after taking a bath. Xiao Huang had also been bathed, so its fur was clean and fluffy, and it followed its master on its own to bed. Ever since Jing Shao hurt Mu Hanjiang recklessly, Xiao Huang had been brought to bed with them to serve as a dividing line every night. After a month of this, Xiao Huang had gotten accustomed to the arrangement and had now refused to sleep on the cold hard ground of the garden. After taking a bath, Jing Shao's face darkened a bit when he saw the pile of black and yellow furball on the bed. He had wronged Jun Qing that night. Later, when Jun Qing let him back in, he thought that the matter was over. He didn't expect that Jun Qing would start to bring the tiger to bed every night. For the past month, he was allowed to look and touch, but he was not allowed to eat. The heavens knew that he was about to go crazy from frustrations. Jun Qing, I have to drive Ji Huiqing out of the borders of Pingjiang city in the next few days. I may have to come home even later. Jing Shao pushed the widely sprawled tiger to one side and lay down on the bed. Mu Hanjiang lay on the inside, stroking the tiger's head repeatedly. The big tiger squinted its eyes comfortably and swung its long tail leisurely. Jing Shao looked at the jade-like hand pitifully and moved his head on the tiger's back, hoping that the hand would touch him as well. Mu Hanjiang glanced at Jing Shao, who was wearing an aggrieved expression, and pretended not to see it. He patted Jing Shao's head once and then he turned over to sleep. Jing Shao tugged the tiger's ears gloomily. Xiao Huang hissed and bared its teeth at him. It put the fleshy pad of its paw on Mu Hanjiang's back as if to show off, and happily rubbed its head on that beautiful back before it tilted its head to get ready to sleep. Jing Shao glared at the furball with wide-opened eyes for a long time. It was not until the breathing of the person on the other side of the bed became even that he reached out from under the bed and took out a piece of spiced dried meat and shook it in front of Xiao Wang's nose. The tiger, who was snoring contentedly, immediately opened its pair of big glazed eyes and stared at the dried meat that was swaying left and right. It opened its mouth to take a bite at it, but the dried meat was thrown out. The big tiger immediately jumped out of bed to chase after the dried meat. Jing Shao glanced at it and quickly occupied the center of the bed. He carefully stretched out his hand towards the side of the bed and slowly pulled the sleeping person into his arms. The person in his arms moved, but did not wake up. His slender and flexible body carried a faint fragrance, with a few strands of black hair scattered around his neck as he slept warmly. Jing Shao buried his nose into that warm neck, took a few greedy breaths and murmured softly, "The battlefield is far away from Pingjiang. If you go to Luzhu again, the time we can be together will become even shorter. Why are you so cruel?" He whined sorrowfully as he hugged the person into his arms again, rubbed the black hair a few times and then aggrievedly fell asleep. The person trapped in his arms slowly raised the corners of his lips. The next day, Mu Hanjiang asked people to tidy up the front yard of Ruoshui Yuan and had it prepared to be turned into a government trade office. Jing Shao, on the other hand, took Xiao Huang to the waiting water garden, saying that he would have it learn how to hunt with the lion. ******. In the 8th month of the 14th year of the Hongzheng era, Prince Chang Jingshao led his troops to the south of the Yangtze River to resist the invasion of the king of Huainan. It was originally a battle to revoke the power of the vassal, but due to the mistake of the fourth Prince Jingyu, the king of Huainan invaded the hinterland of Zhangzhou. Emperor Hongzheng issued a decree to recall the fourth Prince Jingyu and publicly reprimanded him in the court hall for striving to achieve things beyond his capabilities before ordering him to go to the ancestral temple to reflect on his mistakes. *****. In the 9th month of the same year, the Marquis of Wenyuan investigated the case of the prefect of Jiangzhou's exploitation of maritime merchants and privately raising a military troop. Emperor Hongzheng ordered a thorough investigation. Some officials in the court wished to impeach the eldest prince for his involvement with the prefect of Jiangzhou. "Your Highness, we are cousins, you can't just ignore this." The young master of the prefect of Jiangzhou's family knelt in the eldest prince's residence and cried bitterly. What an idiot! He actually couldn't even handle such a feeble scholar. Jing Rong looked coldly at his cousin who was kneeling in front of him. "Go back. This prince will do something about this at his own discretion." After the noisy maternal relatives of his left, the eldest prince Jing Rong took up his jade brush and wrote at the end of the letter, "This prince fears the worst. Please execute the prefect of Zhangzhou." After writing, he angrily threw the jade brush in his hand down to the limestone floor. *****. In the 10th month of the same year, the renovations of the Luzhu port were completed and the Marquis of Wenyuan Mu Hanzang established a government trade office at Ruoshui Yuan in Pingjiang City to mainly collect taxes from buying and selling of foreign products. *****. The war continued until the 12th lunar month before Prince Cheng managed to recover a city that had been previously lost by the fourth prince. Prince Cheng reported that because of the fourth prince's reckless consumption of resources, the imperial soldiers in Jiangnan had ended up losing countless horses and weapons. He requested the Ministry of Revenue to allocate funds to replenish the horses and equipment. Jiangnan is not warm in winter. All the flowers in the Ruoshui Yuan have withered, and only a few winter sweet blooms were still in full bloom. At the end of the year, many overseas merchants returned to their voyages one after another, and the Foreign Trade Government Office had also become idle. Mu Hanjiang was able to have some leisure time and made arrangements for the servants to prepare things for the new year. Pingjiang City was peaceful with the civilians not being affected by the fighting at all, and everyone was happily preparing to celebrate the new year. The king of Huainan was quite famous in the Jiangnan area. When the civilians heard that it was the king of Huainan who was attacking the city, they were not very frightened. On the contrary, when they heard that Prince Chang came to lead the army, they were very nervous for a while. Tomorrow during the Lava festival, arrange for someone to set up a porridge shed outside the city. Mu Hanjiang said to the steward of Ruoshui Yuan after he checked the account books. The steward was a local in Pingjiang and knows a lot about things in Pingjiang City. As the Lord Marquis commands. However, usually the wealthy businessmen in the city will set up porridge shacks in front of their houses. Why should the one for our residence be set up outside the city? Mu Hanjiang glanced at him and said, "The people who fled to Pingjiang due to the war are all outside the city." The steward immediately understood what the prince consort meant and went to make the necessary preparations. In the past 6 months, the common people have seen Prince Cheng's behavior, and with Mu Hanjiang's dedicated guidance, people's perception of Prince Cheng have improved a lot. I'll also get a bowl of porridge tomorrow. A clear and melodious voice came from behind. Before he could even finish speaking, he was interrupted by another familiar voice. "If you want to drink our porridge, you'll have to pay first." Jing Shao glared at the man who sneakily came over to hover around his wife. The man smiled and casually sat down opposite to Mu Hanjiang on the table. It was the king of Weinan who was supposed to be having a fierce fight with Prince Chang. Ji Huiqing picked up an account book and flipped through it as he spoke with an ambiguous smile. "The money for army provisions has already arrived. I wonder if my share is enough to buy a bowl of porridge." "This should be enough." Jing Shao took the account book away and said to his prince consort, "Just transfer the amount directly and refund him an extra 10 taels of silver." Mu Hanjiang pursed his lips together before he chuckled, "You two are here acting so blatantly. Be careful of being noticed by others. I'm here to pick up this little one and bring him to Waiting Water Garden." Ji Huiqing rubbed Xiao Huang, who was lying listlessly next to the heater. After the weather turned cold, the tiger, who was scared of the chill, had refused to take even half a step away from the heater. ******. When Xiao Huang arrived at the hot spring pavilion in the Waiting Water Garden, he immediately became energetic. He walked around the garden heated by hot spring water, then jumped up and down to find the little lion that was sleeping in the center of the garden. Lions grew slower compared to tigers. Xiao Huang was now bigger than the little lion. When it lay its entire body on the lion, its thick fur would completely cover the short-haired lion, leaving only the lion head to stick out. So now, Xiao Huang could no longer chew on the lion's head. In the autumn, Jing Shao sent Xiao Huang there every now and then to learn how to hunt, but Xiao Huang didn't learn how to hunt in the end. What it learned from the lion was how to become even fonder of sleeping. Ji Huiqing watched the two furballs rolling around in the garden but did not accept the banknote being handed over by Mu Hanjiang. "I heard that younger brother's wife is preparing to set up overseas trading business in spring." Mu Hanjiang and Jing Shao looked at each other, then Mu Hanjiang spoke, "That's not quite right. I'm just going to open a 10,000 treasures pavilion to help foreign merchants exchange their goods." This was a business opportunity that Mu Hanjiang had learned after being in charge of overseas trading government office for half a year. Those foreign traders travel vast distance over land and waters and spent much time traveling. Being foreigners in a strange land, they didn't know how to best sell their goods. There's also the fact that most people who did maritime business in Jiangnan were mainly small businessmen, so they couldn't afford to buy a shipload of goods in such a short period of time. Thus, the couple would open a 10,000 treasures pavilion in Luzhu and bought those foreign goods in large quantity before selling them for a higher price to merchants within the empire. "Then can I invest my share of the money this year?" Ji Huiqing said with a smile. As it happened, Mu Hanjiang had been worrying that Jing Shao's investment might not be enough and was considering to take out the 100,000 taels of silver given to him by his mother. With Ji Huiqing's initiative, the dilemma he was having was urgently resolved. "As long as elder brother trusts me, then I naturally accept. By the way, has there been a letter from Jing Chen recently?" Ji Huiqing asked casually. "Gerger sends letters every 10 days, Jing Shao glanced at him and asked his prince consort, feigning ignorance. "Shouldn't the latest letter arrive today?" Mu Hanjiang pressed his lips together to hide his smile. "It arrived early this morning." As he spoke, he took out a letter from his sleeve. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 3, Gathering Storm. Chapter 102, Trimming Weeds. "Show me." Ji Huiqing immediately reached out to grab the letter, but Jing Shao quickly took it away. "I haven't even seen it yet myself." Jing Shao jumped onto the stone table in 2 steps and held the letter out of Ji Huiqing's reach. There wasn't a single word of nonsense in Jing Chen's letters, and he simply talked about the situation in the capital. The matter with the prefect of Zhangzhou was finally resolved. Since the eldest prince was one of those who called for the punishment of his audacious relatives, he avoided being implicated in the case. However, he was now being openly spurned by the emperor and had become a lot more well-behaved in court. The fourth prince was thrown into the ancestral temple to reflect on himself, and he had been reflecting for several months now, as it seemed that Emperor Hongzhen have no intention of bringing him back. Jingyu had been absent from the court, but members of his faction had been picked out one by one. With the end of the year approaching, another group of people had been dealt with. Why did Imperial Father become suspicious of Jingyu? Jing Shao frowned and read the letter again. He originally thought that Emperor Hongzhen was just reprimanding the fourth prince, but judging from the situation, it seemed that he was being ruthless. The reason should be Zhao Julan, the Assistant Minister of Rights. Mu Hanjiang thought for a moment and then turned to ask Ji Huiqing. Elder brother, is there anything special about Zhao Julan? He's nothing special at all. He's just some piece of grass that easily swayed. Ji Huiqing took advantage of Jing Shao's inattentiveness and snatched the letter. Once suspicion arises, it cannot be stopped. Once suspicion arises, it cannot be stopped. Once suspicion arises, it cannot be stopped. Jing Shao was stunned for a long time before a bitter smile emerged on his face. In his previous life, he only made a small mistake. Once his salt dealings was discovered, things completely got out of control. So many crimes that he didn't even know had been committed were all blamed on him. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In Fenji Palace. This consort made new robes for the fourth prince, but Jingyu is not in the palace, so I can't let him try them on, so I really don't know if they will fit. The empress took a set of men's attire to show to Emperor Hongzhen and spoke sadly. Emperor Hongzhen glanced at her but didn't answer. The empress noticed that he didn't show any hint of concern and got secretly worried. She plastered on a smile on her face and said, "Your Majesty, the new year is coming soon. This consort wonders if perhaps Jingyu can be brought back to at least celebrate the new year in the palace and just go again afterwards." Jing Shao can't celebrate the new year in the palace as well. Why aren't you suggesting that he be brought back, too? Emperor Hongzhen snorted coldly. Jing Shao is fighting for the country, so naturally, he can't return. The empress gritted her teeth secretly. Why did he even bring up Jing Shao? Could her son even be compared to that trash who cannot inherit the throne? I have my own discretion in this matter and I don't need you to tell me what to do. After hearing this, Emperor Hongzhen stood up and walked out. The more he stayed at Fenji Palace, the duller he found the place to be. In the imperial court, it was all politics. In the inner court, it was also all politics. It was all very annoying. The empress watched the emperor walk out of Fenji Palace. She was so angry that she clenched the silk handkerchief in her hand. Recently, the emperor had become more and more impatient when she was talking to him. She pointed to a servant and ordered, "You, go and find out where His Majesty is going." "Yes, Your Majesty." The little eunuch on the side responded in a low voice, ran out quickly and came back after a while, reporting to Your Majesty, "The emperor has gone to Jiaolan Palace." "Zhou Shulan, that bitch." The empress' eyes turned sharp, as she raised her hand and threw the delicate white jade cup. The bitch who has been out of favor for many years actually dares to seduce the emperor again. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In the Jiaolan Palace, concubine Zhou was looking at the information she received from Prince Rui. She smiled so hard that her beautiful eyes curved. It was only last month that she learned that her nephew from her mother's side, Zhou Yunji, was actually the third top-rank scholar Ma Zhou. She had been feeling depressed since the Zhou family was convicted. Now that there was a qualified successor to the Zhou family who could bring about a turnaround in their fortune, she felt hopeful again. Consort mother. The seventh Prince Jingyi was done with his studies and ran back into his consort mother's palace. The little chubby boy jumped up and down energetically before he threw himself directly into his mother's arms. "You're being naughty again." Concubine Shu burned the letter in her hand on the candlelight. Then she lowered her head and wiped the little boy's chubby face with a handkerchief. "Consort mother, I also want to go to Jiangnan to fight with third imperial brother. Ever since Jingyi met Jing Shao in the study that one time, the chubby boy had been fascinated by his brother's valiant demeanor and vowed to become a great hero like Prince Chang. His Majesty has arrived. A loud voice suddenly rang from outside the door, and concubine Shu hurriedly pulled Jingyi down to kneel with her. Does Jingyi wants to be a general? Emperor Hongzheng walked in with a smile. Ever since he had met Prince Cheng that one time, he had been yelling about going to war every day. This consort had been having headaches from the noise. Consort Zhou stood up with a smile, stuffing the hand warmer she had been holding into Emperor Hongzheng's hands. Then she stood on tiptoe to personally help him take off his cloak. Emperor Hongzheng was satisfied with being served like this, and his complexion became a little better. Looking at the still young and sweet-tempered consort Zhou, he couldn't help but think of the Fenji Palace in the past when it was Empress Yuan who was residing in it. She was also a very warm and gentle person. Consort Zhou, have you ever blamed me for what happened to the Zhou family? Concubine Zhou paused before she smiled and said, the rise and fall of honor and disgrace are all under the heaven's will. Your Majesty didn't demote this consort in spite of the Zhou family's situations, for which this consort is very grateful, so why should there be any resentment? ******. In the 14th year of Hongzheng era, the imperial palace was at peace. At least, it's peaceful on the surface. In the end, Emperor Hongzheng didn't allow the fourth prince to come back to the imperial court. Rumor emerged that the fourth prince Jingyu had completely fallen out of favor and likely no longer have any hope of succeeding the throne. During the spring festival, Emperor Hongzheng brought Jingyu back to perform the ceremonial rites. However, the court was no longer how it used to be. Almost all of Jingyu's followers had been completely eradicated. Jingyu's followers had been cut off to pieces. The conservative faction in the court were now even more polite towards Prince Rui compared to before, as if they were already regarding him as the crown prince. Imperial Mother, if this continues, we will all be doomed. Jingyu paced around Fenji Palace. The Empress remained silent, but she clenched the handkerchief in her hand with a deadly grip. Recently, there were murmurs in the courts that Consort Zhou was very much favored now that some people began to vaguely support the seventh prince. It was simply ridiculous. However, the turmoil in the capital did not affect Jiangnan at all. In Jing Shao's eyes, life passed by very comfortably day by day. In his previous life, Jing Shao fought against the Huainan fiefdom for so many years, so he didn't worry about people being suspicious of him even if the war campaign was slow. At that time, he fought bloody battles every day and truly worked his hardest. With sufficient investment and cooperation of the local government, the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion smoothly started its operation. Because of their good business and bulk trading, they earned back their initial investments within a year. In addition to the dividends given by the King of Huainan, Jing Shao now had a reliable source of income for recruiting soldiers for his private army. Because it would be conspicuous if one single shop controlled all businesses, Mu Hanzhong registered the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion under the name of an influential family in overseas trade in Pingjiang City. He also allowed several other shops to open similar kinds of business operation, but none could surpass the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. Unfortunately, peaceful days always passed quickly, and another year passed in the blink of an eye. By the 16th year of Hongzheng, Xiao Huang had grown into an adult tiger and Mu Longlin had already learned how to say gerger. Jing Shao was lying on the bamboo couch in the yard, leisurely drinking the sweet-scented Osman Thus wine in his hand. Xiao Huang was lying down, scratching the rough edges of the bamboo couch and flopping over to show its belly, which meant that it wanted to play. Brother-in-law has sent another letter. Mu Hanzhong walked out of the house, holding a letter in his hand, his face a little solemn. What's wrong? Jing Shao noticed that his prince consort's facial expression was not good, so he hurriedly sat up and pulled him onto divan. He took the letter and read it for a few times as his expression turned a little strange. Gerger is asking about the medicine I confiscated at that time. Mu Hanzhong nodded. The tone of Jing Chen's letter was very cautious. He actually used the word incense ash that the deceased Nun Mo Bei gave to Prince Rui's fourth son. I do have half of it in a bottle here. Mu Hanzhong took out a small porcelain bottle, which was exactly half of the medicinal powder he poured out from the yellow paper back then. For fear that it would be found by others when they were not in the Prince Cheng's residence and wouldn't be able to offer explanation about it, Mu Hanzhong took it with him to Jiangnan. End chapter.